It was a chilly winter day by the river, where the landscape was painted white with frost and glistening ice. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden glow on the frozen surface. Ice floes drifted lazily downstream, their edges jagged and sharp, like nature's own sculptures. The air was crisp and biting, making each breath feel alive with the chill of winter. People bustled about near the riverbank, bundled in thick coats and hats, their breath visible in puffs of steam. Children laughed as they skated on the thin layer of ice that had formed along the shore, their voices bright against the quiet backdrop of the landscape. Merchants shouted cheerfully from nearby stalls, selling warm drinks and baked goods to passers-by seeking comfort from the cold. Despite the joyous atmosphere, an underlying tension lingered. Townsfolk exchanged glances towards the river, where they could hear the gentle creaks and groans of shifting ice. All were aware of its dangers but drawn to its beauty at the same time. Fishermen stood patiently at intervals along the shore, hoping for a good catch while keeping one eye on their surroundings. Suddenly, an unexpected sight captured everyone's attention. A figure in a flowing cloak appeared on one of the drifting ice floes. A hint of mystery surrounded her as she moved cautiously across the treacherous surface. Whispers filled the air as people wondered who she was and what had brought her out onto such perilous ground. As whispers spread through the crowd, the familiar sound of a river ferry's horn echoed across the icy waters, signaling its arrival. The ferry, a sturdy vessel with a weathered wooden deck, cut through the mist like a brave knight on a quest. Its bright red and white color stood in stark contrast to the wintry landscape, promising warmth and safety to those eager to cross. The crew bustled about with purpose, tying ropes and checking supplies as passengers gathered at the gangplank. Eager faces peered over the side of the boat, their excitement palpable. Some were bundled in thick blankets, while others clasped steaming mugs of hot cocoa. A sense of adventure filled the air. Everyone was ready to embark on the journey across the river. Among the crew, the captain stood tall at the helm, his bright scarf fluttering in the cold wind. He called out orders with a booming voice, rallying his team to ensure everything was ready for departure. As the ferry rocked gently on its moorings, a small group of children waved enthusiastically, their laughter ringing out like music. But just as the last passenger boarded, eyes were drawn back to the mysterious figure on the ice floe. The captain squinted, noticing her distress. With a frown of concern, he shouted to his crew to prepare for an unusual rescue. The passengers exchanged worried glances, feeling the tension rise as they realized that their peaceful crossing might soon become an unexpected adventure. As the ferry bobbed gently at its moorings, all eyes turned to the veiled lady on the ice floe. She stood in a flowing cloak that danced with the wind, but her movements were uncertain and cautious. The fabric shimmered in shades of deep blue and silver, like twilight skies reflecting on the frozen river below. A muffled gasp swept through the crowd as they observed her struggle to maintain her balance on the shifting ice. Her face was mostly hidden beneath the veil, but those who could glimpse her wide, frightened eyes felt a pang of empathy. She appeared to be searching for something or someone, her hands outstretched as if hoping for help. The tension in the air thickened. People exchanged worried glances, uncertain of what to do next. Some murmured among themselves, speculating about her story. Was she lost? Or perhaps in trouble? The captain of the ferry raised his voice above the increasing murmur, calling for volunteers to assist in the rescue. But before anyone could respond, a sinking sound echoed through the quiet chill. The ice below the lady cracked ominously as she took a step forward. Panic briefly gripped the crowd as they watched her start to wobble dangerously. With determination shining through his concern, the captain made a signal for one of his crew members to prepare a rope. They couldn't wait any longer. The veiled lady was not just an enigmatic figure. She was now a source of urgency, pulling everyone's attention toward her desperate plight in this wintry scene. Amidst the rising panic, one brave ferryman named Thomas stepped forward. He was known for his strong arms and steady heart, always willing to help those in need. As he looked at the veiled lady teetering on the ice, something deep inside him stirred, a mix of courage and compassion that he couldn't ignore. With a quick nod to the captain, Thomas grabbed a sturdy rope from the ferry's supplies. He tied one end securely around his waist, knowing he would need to be anchored as he ventured out onto the treacherous ice. The icy wind bit at his face as he took a deep breath and stepped onto the floe, moving cautiously but determinedly towards her. The crowd watched in hushed awe as he made his way across the cracking ice. Each step required focus. He could feel the instability beneath him. As he neared the lady, she looked up, her eyes wide with hope and fear. "Hold on," he called out, trying to reassure her as he stretched out his hand. Just as he reached her, the ice groaned ominously again. Thomas quickly grabbed her wrist, anchoring her to him with one firm grip while using his other hand to steady himself. Together they teetered for a moment on the edge of disaster before he began to lead her back towards safety. With every ounce of strength, Thomas pulled them both back inch by inch until they finally reached solid ground at the edge of the ferry. The crowd erupted in cheers as they stepped aboard, gratitude washing over them like sunlight breaking through clouds on a winter's day. Just as the crowd erupted in cheers for Thomas and the veiled lady's safe return, a sudden hush fell over the scene. A group of stern-faced Pinkerton agents emerged from the shadows, their dark coats flapping in the cold wind. They moved with purpose, blocking the gangplank leading to the ferry, their presence instantly commanding attention and concern. The agents surveyed the scene with sharp eyes, assessing both the crowd and the rescued lady. Their serious expressions hinted at authority and urgency, leaving many wondering what business they had here. The townsfolk exchanged nervous glances. Whispers of uncertainty rippled through the crowd as they sensed something was amiss. One of the agents stepped forward, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. "That woman belongs to us," he declared, pointing toward the veiled lady. "We are here to reclaim her." The crowd shifted uneasily at his words, unsure of what this meant for their newfound heroism in rescuing her. Thomas stood protectively beside the lady, instinctively blocking her from view. He could see her distress mirrored in her eyes as she stared at the agents with fear. The tension in the air grew thick. It was clear that this wasn't just a simple rescue. It had now transformed into a standoff between brave hearts and those determined to take her back. As people moved closer together, murmurs began about what price these agents might demand for her freedom. The festive atmosphere quickly turned into one filled with uncertainty and dread, leaving everyone on edge as they waited to learn what would happen next. The atmosphere on the ferry became charged with uncertainty as the townsfolk processed the sudden turn of events. Passengers exchanged anxious glances, their previous elation now replaced by a mix of fear and curiosity. Whispers floated through the crowd, each person speculating about who the Pinkerton agents were and why they sought the veiled lady. Some passengers felt uneasy, their hearts racing at the thought of confrontation. What powers did these agents possess? Could they truly take her away after such a momentous rescue? Others, however, were intrigued by the unfolding drama. They leaned in closer, eager to witness how this standoff would play out. The thrill of suspense gripped them, transforming their earlier joy into a macabre sense of entertainment. Thomas stood firm beside the veiled lady, his protective stance igniting admiration among some in the crowd. They murmured praises for his bravery, while others questioned whether he would be able to stand against such formidable agents. The weight of expectation hung thick in the air, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for a spark that could either ignite a conflict or lead to resolution. The lady herself appeared caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She glanced between Thomas and the agents with wide eyes, confusion and fear flickering across her face. In that tense moment, it felt as if time had paused. The outcome remained uncertain, leaving everyone on edge as they awaited an answer to this unexpected crisis. The tension escalated as one of the Pinkerton agents stepped forward, his voice calm yet authoritative. "We are not here to cause trouble," he began, scanning the crowd with piercing eyes. "We are simply here to reclaim what is rightfully ours." He pointed towards the veiled lady, who flinched at the sound of his voice, revealing her unease. The agent continued, "We can make this simple. We seek a price, one that reflects her value." The crowd collectively gasped, murmurs erupting again as panic and disbelief spread like wildfire. Passengers exchanged bewildered looks. Who was this woman that she could be so valued? Price? Thomas echoed defiantly, stepping protectively closer to the lady. You think her worth can be measured like a commodity? She was rescued from peril. His heart raced with anger and determination as he faced the agents. The other passengers were equally stirred by this exchange. Some felt indignation rise in their chests, while others were intrigued by the implications behind the agent's words. Was this lady really more than she appeared? Her identity suddenly seemed cloaked in mystery, hinting that there might be dangers she had fled from, or perhaps even powers unknown. As whispers filled the air, a sense of urgency took hold of those on board. The possibility that they stood in the presence of someone extraordinary made them question everything they thought they knew about this encounter. Would they allow her to be taken away so easily? Their collective anxiety only grew as they awaited the agent's next move and grappled with what it all meant for everyone involved. As the tension swirled around him, Thomas found himself trapped in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He had risked his life to save the veiled lady, driven by an instinct to help those in need. Yet now, with the Pinkerton agents demanding a price for her freedom, he faced an impossible choice. Should he stand firm and protect her at all costs, or should he consider the safety of the passengers on the ferry? The agent's words echoed in his mind. What price do you place on her? Thomas felt a surge of anger at the notion that anyone could quantify a person's worth as if they were merely property. But alongside that anger was a gnawing fear. What would happen if he defied the agents? Would they turn their ire on him or harm the lady who had already faced enough danger? He looked at her standing beside him, eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. She was no longer just a mysterious figure. She had become someone whose safety depended on his decision. The crowd murmured, their anxious faces reflecting his own turmoil. If he fought against the agents, would he be putting everyone in jeopardy? But how could he stand by and let her be taken away without a fight? The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders as he contemplated what action to take next. In this moment, Thomas realized that bravery wasn't just about physical strength. It was about making choices that could change lives forever, even when those choices carried unimaginable risks. As the standoff continued, the veiled lady took a deep breath and, with a trembling hand, pulled back her hood. The crowd gasped collectively, revealing not just any face, but one that seemed strangely familiar to many. She was not merely a victim caught in peril. She was Lady Alara, the daughter of a prominent nobleman who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances months prior. Whispers surged through the ferry like wildfire. Lady Alara? Someone exclaimed, disbelief mingling with awe. The townsfolk had heard rumors of her family's troubles but never expected to see her here, alive and in such a dire situation. This unexpected revelation shifted the dynamics of the moment entirely. If she truly was the lost noblewoman, then her worth was far beyond what the agents had claimed. The Pinkerton agents' expressions turned from stern to wary as they realized the implications of her identity. You have no right to take her, Thomas declared, emboldened by the crowd's reaction and the newfound significance of Lady Alara. The passengers began to rally around him, their indignation growing stronger. With her past now unveiled, a flurry of emotions coursed through Lady Alara. She looked at Thomas with gratitude and determination. She wasn't just a helpless figure anymore, but a woman ready to reclaim her life. The agents had underestimated her value, not just as a noblewoman but as someone who had faced danger and emerged stronger. As everyone braced for what would happen next, the air crackled with anticipation and hope. The stakes were higher now. It was no longer just about a rescue. It was about standing up for justice against those who sought to control her fate. As the tension reached its peak, Thomas stepped forward, his heart pounding but his resolve unshaken. Lady Alara is not just a noblewoman. She is a person who deserves to be free, he declared, his voice steady and strong. The crowd rallied behind him, their murmurs transforming into shouts of support for the lady they had come to admire. Seeing the unexpected unity among the townsfolk, one of the Pinkerton agents hesitated. The agent exchanged glances with his companions, uncertainty creeping into their stern expressions. It became clear that taking Lady Alara by force might incite a confrontation that could turn dangerous for everyone involved. In a bold move, Thomas proposed a negotiation. "Let us discuss her situation openly," he urged, maintaining eye contact with the agents. "If you truly have claims against her, let's find common ground without violence." The crowd fell silent, captivated by this unexpected turn. The lead agent considered this proposition carefully. After moments of deliberation that felt like an eternity, he nodded slowly. "Very well," he replied reluctantly. "We will listen, but know this, we will not leave empty-handed." As voices rose in conversation, Lady Alara stepped forward with newfound confidence and spoke for herself. She recounted her story, how she had escaped those who wished to control her life and sought refuge among the townspeople. With each word she spoke, the atmosphere shifted from one of fear to empowerment. By the end of their dialogue, both sides emerged with a better understanding, and an agreement was reached that allowed Lady Alara to remain free on her own terms. The crowd erupted in cheers once more. This was not just a victory for Lady Alara, but also a testament to unity and bravery in the face of adversity. In that moment, they celebrated not just her freedom but the courage it took to stand together against injustice.